you got to write a good song. People say, oh, with laptops today, and you got this recording equipment, anyone can make a record. It's like, yeah, but not anyone can just make a record anybody wants to hear. You know what I mean? It's not like my mom is just going to open up this program and make a song that's going to, break. I mean, maybe she could. Maybe she could. Actually, it'd be an interesting experiment.
Welcome to the Music Business Facts Podcast, where successful music industry experts share their industry secrets that will help you take your music career to the next level.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, Rodney Holder here, and thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, Music Business Facts. I really appreciate your time, and as always, I'll try and bring you the most compelling interviews with music experts so you can learn from those successful individuals and hear their thoughts and opinions on just how to succeed in the music business, whatever your interpretation of success might be. My guest today has experienced an enormous amount of success in the music industry. Brent DeBoer has been the drummer for American rock band the Dandy Warhols for over 19 years, and since moving from Portland, USA to Australia permanently, he also plays guitar in a band called Immigrant Union, so check out Immigrant Union at immigrantunion.com. You know, sometimes when I speak with really successful musicians, they can often be a bit standoffish or aren't always prepared to discuss certain elements of their business. Well, that certainly wasn't Brent, and today I was lucky enough to spend almost an hour with him on the phone, and I found him to be a really authentic, honest, open and interesting guy, as well as a really top bloke. It was really refreshing to hear his experiences and his views on the music business, as well as some of the awesome stories he shared about the industry. Now, the Dandy Warhols also have a new album out called Distortland, so check that out, and they're also about to embark on an Australian tour in October. So for all the details on the tour, you can visit my show notes page over at musicbusinessfacts.com. Anyhow, I won't muck around today. Wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing, I really hope you enjoy my interview with Brent DeBoer. And like I said, he's got a wealth of knowledge, and I really enjoyed speaking with him today. I hope you like his story, and check it out. My name's Rodney Holder, and I'm in Brisbane, Australia, and I run a music business podcast called Music Business Facts. So I was hoping I could ask you a little bit about not only your new record on your upcoming Australian tour, but a little bit about the music business and your experience and your views on it.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Awesome. Well, first up, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, would you just mind telling us a little bit about yourself personally and your awesome band, the Dandy Warhols?
Yeah, my name's Brent DeBoer. Most people call me Fatty or Fathead. And I'm from Portland, Oregon, and that's where the band is from. And I've been the drummer for the Dandies for about 19 years now. And I also play guitar in a band called Immigrant Union. It's an Australian band because I live in Melbourne, Australia.
Yep.
And I've been drumming since I was 6 years old. And been in about 7 or 8 bands over the course of my life, and definitely the Dandies have been the most successful one, and we've just kind of lived out of a tour bus for half the year for about the last 20 years, and then and our next tour after, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, playing at the Terminal West Club in Atlanta, and then after a few more weeks here, we're going to head to Australia and do an Australian tour starting in Perth.
Awesome, Brent. It's a good story.
That's pretty much it, man. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but...
Well, let's get into a little bit of it. You said you played in a few other bands, and then I read that one day Courtney Taylor rang you up and said, "Hey, Brent, we really need your help." That, I assume, was your lucky break. My question is, how much does luck play in a musician or a songwriter becoming successful, do you think?
I guess the luck would come from your genetics, just having the constitution to handle this bizarre lifestyle. And maybe I think there's an element of, once again, luck, being born with or raised by the right people who provide you with the appropriate social skills to handle such a vocation. And then there's... and, of course, having some natural talent, being born with some natural talent. You know, I never really learned to play the drums. I got a kid when I was like 5 or 6 or whatever, so I don't really remember learning to play the drums. I don't remember learning how to sing. It was just kind of stuff that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember learning how to play guitar, though, because I was kind of a little bit frustrated with the bands I was in when they're all talking about the chords and what key they're in and everything, and I just wanted to know what they were doing. So I asked our guitar player if he could teach me how to play guitar. So he taught me a few chords, and then I just kind of learned on my own. And then, and then luck-wise with success, I know there was definitely a lucky moment for us, but at the same time, you have to have, you have to be able to write a great song, and it has to be the type of song that touches the masses, because the lucky part was that we had put out an album called 13 Tales from Urban Bohemia, and it was out for a year, and nobody cared, because the only thing on the radio was just, like kind of aggressive, masculine rap rock and like boy bands, really the polar opposite of that. It was like these two extreme opposite opposing styles of music. And there was no radio moniker, there's nothing for us to get into the radio with a record that sounded like a cross between Neil Young and Massive Attack or something. And so, like an acoustically driven rock album with, it just didn't work. So it came and went. And then like a year later, this telephone company, Vodafone, called us up and wanted to use one of our songs, Bohemian Like You, in their ad campaign. We're like, rad, okay. We just thought it was going to be a nice payday, because they paid nicely for that. And we're like, okay, cool. Well, it looks like we're going to be able to make another album. Okay, good. And then what happened is that song ended up on television in like 30 countries, and people couldn't escape it, and people really liked it, which was really interesting to us, since every song, every television commercial, every radio commercial had a song in it. And this one, for whatever reason, people actually were like, what the hell is that song? That's a really cool song. So they started calling radio stations. This is the year 2000. There's no internet or anything, so nobody knew what the hell to do. Like, what the hell? What is this band? They didn't have Shazam, You couldn't figure it out. So they would actually call radio stations, and the radio stations actually picked up on it and started playing the song, and it went to number one in numerous countries. And so we used to jokingly say that we should have signed a record deal with Vodafone, because they did more for our career than anyone else. But what are you going to do if radio's not going to play your music? Let people hear it in another way is actually fantastic for us. Yeah, then that was that. I mean, I wouldn't be standing here in Atlanta talking to you right now if it wasn't for Vodafone, most likely, putting that song in everyone's living rooms. Of course, it didn't happen in America, which is why our crowd in America is, I'd say their average age is probably 45, because the last time we were on the radio in America was with Come Down, the second Dandy's album, and you had Not If You're the Last Junkie on Earth, and Every Day Should Be a Holiday, and Boy's Better. These songs were all on the radio in America, and that's when people were introduced. And those fans are the same fans, because from 13 Tales onwards, none of those songs were played on the radio. So we haven't had a new fan really via media in America since 1999 or whatever. So, but the rest of the world, each of our albums get picked up. They'll play a few songs, whatever. And we do end up with quite an array of ages and various types of people at our gigs. But, yeah, I mean, Vodafone, that was our lucky break. If you want to talk about luck, that was definitely a lucky moment. And let me tell you one more thing about that Vodafone commercial, is its debut was at halftime of the England versus Brazil semifinals in the World Cup. And it's a 4-minute, it's the whole song is this commercial. And the commercial is gorgeous. Well, what happened is England scored the first goal, so it was 1-0 versus Brazil. So the underdog is up. And then in England, right, they don't have commercials during the game, right? So the very first commercial was when the guy blew the whistle for halftime. And you could just imagine every pub in England has the game on, and they have giant stereo, massive speakers set up with the commentators, at full volume. And then here comes this song, Bohemian Like You, and it's just blasting all over England. The entire country of England, save maybe 12 people who, for whatever reason, couldn't watch that game. The entire country of England, up 1-0 on Brazil, this song comes on, and they all just raged, partying and spilling beer and going crazy to this song. And it struck a nerve. They never forgot that moment when they were up 1. Of course, they lost in the end, but I always thought we should send a thank you letter to the guy who kicked the goal for England, and also a thank you letter to the goalie for Brazil for letting that shit go through, man, because it changed our lives.
Brent, that is such an awesome story, and I suppose what it really highlights is the importance of getting a sync deal or trying to get a sync on a commercial.
Well, it's the only way. I mean, unless you want to spend 12 months on the road, it's the only way you can get paid today for what you record, and not have to hang it up and find a different job. It's the only way. Movies, television commercials, and I think that the overall vibe now amongst most semi-successful to successful bands is, when Vodafone first came out, it was these idiots were they're selling out or whatever. It's like, come on, get on my face, man. We just want to make music, dude. And plus, it's like if Ben a Sun by Nirvana, right? Say some television commercial used that song in their TV ad, and I'm sitting there watching it. I'm not going to suddenly dislike that perfect song by Nirvana. You know what I mean? Get on my face. Either you love music or you don't.
Absolutely. So like you said, a great payday and it sounds like even better promotion and lasting for your entire career.
Like I said, I probably wouldn't have met I live in Melbourne, Australia. If it wasn't for Vodafone, I wouldn't have probably been playing Big Day Out in 2004, playing two bands behind the Strokes and Metallica, at 5:15 p.m. right before these two bands. And I wouldn't have met my wife, and my two kids probably would never have been born. So, thanks, Vodafone.
Well, there you go. That's destiny. Hey, listen, Brent, for anyone listening, have you got any advice on how you'd go about getting a synchronization deal with a commercial? Have you got any advice? I mean, got any tips?
Well, first off, don't do anything in the studio that you wouldn't normally do. Just make great music. Just focus on getting your lyrics and chords and melodies and the vibe and the trip and the textures. Just get it perfect. Just crush it, dude. And don't do it for anyone else. Don't sit there and listen to Triple J and think, oh, we better turn up the bass drum because it seems like Triple J really likes a big bass drum or whatever. Forget that. Just smoke a big doobie and listen to your mix back and get it right for you. Just make sure that you are happy with it, because you're the one that's going to have to live with it for the rest of your life. It's never going to go away. Make sure it's perfect for you, that you absolutely love it, and don't let some producer tell you, "Oh, we got to do something." Anything, fill in the blank. Just forget it. If you don't like the way that sounds, fix it and just make it perfect for you. First of all, because that's the only way you're not going to feel strange and guilty and weird about when it comes on in a bar somewhere, and you know that you did something that you don't really like. Just do whatever is true to your heart and true to your ears and your brain and that you love. And then after that, once your record's done and you know that it's done true and from the heart, just for you, just make it for you and your band, and then and once you love it, then there's there are you can there's publishing deals that you can try to get, which are a little bit difficult to pull off, but you can attempt that. And you can also, there's licensing companies, that'll take your music if they dig it, and try to push it. I'm not sure exactly what their office does. I'm not sure what their day-to-day is. I know, we have these kind of deals lined up. My band's Immigrant Union, we've worked with some of these companies, and not sure 100% exactly what their tact is, but that's their job. And they get a percentage of the money if it ends up in a commercial for a coffee company or something, and if Monsanto or Halliburton or something wants to use your song and you don't like it, you have final say. So you say, hell no, we're not gonna. I don't care how much money Halliburton wants to pay. Forget that.
Mm-hmm. No, look, that's absolutely fantastic advice, mate.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you do, but first and foremost, don't cheat yourself. Make your favorite music. That's what your job is to do.
Fantastic to hear. Brent, you mentioned at the start when you were talking about the Vodafone and how you're finding it hard to get on the radio, and then you mentioned Triple J. In your opinion, how important is an act who is unknown or relatively unknown today? How important does radio play in the role of building someone's career? Do you still think it's as important as it used to be?
Not as important as it used to be, but I still think that it's really, really important, especially if you're like in like a boy band or one of those sort of Britney Spears style groups, that's mm-hmm. flat out the number one most important thing.
Sure.
If you're Beyonce or something, you're not going to survive unless you're pumping on the center of the dial. So, mm-hmm. but if you're in a band like us, just banging out guitar work and writing heavy lyrics and all that, then I don't know. For us, we don't really get to be on the radio much anymore. Even if you listen to Triple J, it's all real kind of pumped up and pro style. It's not really the kind of music I'd want to put on at one of my parties. So I don't mm-hmm. think our music really will find a place there anymore, unless they're having like a nostalgia hour where they play Bohemian Like You and Every Day Should Be a Holiday and stuff like that. But maybe it's 2 a.m. or something. But as far as that goes, I can't really speak for Beyonce, and I'm sure she has people who with deep pockets who make sure that every one of her records, gets a lot of attention. But we don't have that kind of thing, I think I read somewhere that it takes like $10 million or something to put out one of those boy band top of the chart poppity pop groups, mm-hmm. That's just not going to happen for me or any of my peers, forget that those days are over. And we didn't have that kind of money when Bohemian came out, but Vodafone actually paid us to show everybody this rad song. And it changed a lot of people's lives, it brought people into the fold. And there are people who literally hardly listen to anything but the Dandy Warhols, all because they had that first moment when they heard Bohemian Like You coming out of their television set. And it changed their lives for the better. I'm not going to say for one second that there's one bad thing whatsoever that came out of that, because just tonight in a few hours we're going to play this gig, and like I said, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. That was a huge break for us. But like I said, though, you've got to just you do, no matter what style of music you're playing, you've got to write a good song. People say, oh, with laptops today, and you got this recording equipment, anyone can make a record. It's like, yeah, but not anyone can just make a record anybody wants to hear. You know what I mean? It's not like without any training whatsoever, my mom is just going to open up this program and make a song that's gonna break. I mean, maybe she could. Actually, it'd be an interesting experiment. Just go,
she might surprise you.
Let's make a song, because she's great. My mom's a great singer, actually. She might surprise me. But like I'm saying, though, the number one thing is, though, the hardest part is still the same thing. From 1950 to 60 to 70, for Led Zeppelin, for Black Sabbath, for any band, you have to write a song, and it has to mean something. It has to start off the right way. It has to have a thing in the middle, and it's got to take you on a trip, and it has to have lyrics that matter and touch you. Either it makes you laugh hysterically or it makes you want to cry. Whatever it is, there has to be an emotional element. You can't just open up some computer program that came with your computer and expect to to write the next, Sweet Leaf. You have to actually know how to play the guitar and write Sweet Leaf. So, number one thing is forget just sitting there and recording. Hone your skills first, learn how to write a song, You got it. It took me 20 years. I've still only written about 15 of them, but it took me from the moment I learned to play guitar and a little bit of piano, it took me like 15 years to work out how to actually craft a tune. And it's a lot of work. And that's where you should be focusing your energy, not sitting in front of your computer going blip, 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 blip. It just, who cares,
No, fantastic to hear coming from you, buddy. I wanted to ask you also, Brent, I know that the Dandies have been independent for around 10 years. How important is it to learn about the business side? I mean, I guess the perception is that you guys are a very successful band. Do you have, managers and agents and promoters looking after everything for you? I mean, my question is, how much of an active role do you take in the business side of the Dandy Warhols?
Very little.
Very little?
It's not my forte. With the Dandy Warhols, very little. With my Australian band, Immigrant Union, since it's really just the band members, and our manager, which is which is actually two people. And so between the five of us in the band and those two people, no decision is made without a discussion. So, and 90% of those decisions are on a business level. Like, look, this is how much money they're offering. This is how much we're going to take home. I know we got to take off work to go and play this concert in Tasmania or whatever. We're going to have to buy these plane tickets. Our management is absolutely fantastic, and they, they work out a budget very quickly, and they look at it, and here's what we're going to get, and here's what we can buy with that money from these two concerts. And that's basically the whole business thing. You're looking at, okay, we're going to come home with $700 after all the plane tickets and the rigmarole. And then somebody will bring up, I have a friend in this town. Maybe a few of us can stay with them that night. We'll talk about that. Okay, get back to us and let us know, because that'll change the budget. And then like, look, I'm gonna email this guy back and explain that we're only going to be coming home with $300 and see if he can bump it up a couple bucks, see what it's worth to him. But, as far as all those lawyers and all that shit goes, Immigrant Union doesn't do that. Dandies have a lot of that kind of stuff, because we have a crew of 9 people. We have a giant tour bus. Every single one of those people, including our bus driver, needs a hotel at all these places. There's a lot more money involved. There's gig insurance. There's people. We have a very international crew, so they're flying in from all over the world. It's a lot more involved, and we have a lot of people involved in this operation, and I don't even dip my toe in it, because it's just too much. I mean, on the surface, I'll kind of look, and I'll be like, oh wait, what are we doing? How much money? That gig is, oh man, and I'm kind of thinking, shit, man, I'm in Melbourne, and this is really far away. This is how much? What's the band going to get from this? Is this worth it to everybody? Of course, I want to play every concert there is, because that's my favorite thing to do on earth. My favorite thing to do is to play a rock concert. I can't think of anything I enjoy more, really, than playing a rock concert. But you sometimes have to be smart about it and go, hang on, what's going on here? What is this going to, it's that level of inconvenience. And, traveling the world is a difficult and tiring thing. And as much as I love it, I'm not going to complain. I'm not complaining. I absolutely love it. I thank my lucky stars every time I get on an airplane, every time I walk up and sit down at the drum set. I can't believe we have the opportunity to do this. It's very rare. And there are countless amazing bands that will never get this opportunity for one reason or another. And I don't take it for granted for 1 second. But at the same time, when you got kids and family and you just, you make these decisions. And I guess those are business decisions. And you have also another family to look after, because you have your whole band and this whole crew, which has basically been with us from the beginning. And you think, okay, let's do it. Let's get in there, everybody. Let's go do it. We're going to have a blast, and the crowd's going to have a blast. and if it looks like it's, monetarily speaking, if it's worth it to everyone, let's do it. You kind of weigh that against your mental health and your time with your family, which I guess is basically the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, Brent, the perception about the Dandies, you have been very successful. I imagine there's a lot of money going through the system. I've watched the movie Dig a couple of times, and I don't know if you want to talk about that, but there's one part in the film where Courtney's talking about how, they have to take out massive loans from the record companies, and he's kind of like, a bit down on the whole thing. Is that the reason why you went independent? Because you felt like you could do it now that you had a name, you had some success, you had fans, that you didn't really need the record company anymore?
I mean, I guess in our minds there was an element of that, but at the same time, we learned pretty quick just how powerful EMI and Capitol Records are, and Parlophone, because our lives changed significantly after that. We had to downscale. We had to really look at our budgets. We weren't doing press days in the finest hotels in Paris anymore. A lot of things changed, but and we found out that we didn't really know what we were doing. We had to very, very quickly learn how this whole thing worked and exactly what types of people we needed on board and whether or not we could afford them. It changed a lot. I got to admit, it was very cruisy under the Parlophone EMI Capitol umbrella. Yeah. Very, very cruisy, well-lubricated machine. Those people know what they're doing. As much as we would argue with them and say, no, we don't want to play in the front window of a Levi's store at 1 PM, we're not going to do that. At the end of the day, most of their ideas were pretty spot on, I got to admit. And they're, and we learned a lot from them. You would relate many of your decisions and ideas based on what these experts knew to be a good thing or a bad thing. And, we were trying to get off of Capitol Records for a couple albums, and I'm glad that they didn't let us go because, we did well with those records. And now, it's just different, but we're doing all right. We have great management and our, and our kind of media team and, and stuff. We do a good, it's a good operation, and there's a lot of really nice people, really good people, easy to talk to, easy to work with. So, but, I think that mainly it's right about that same time, there's a huge shift in whether, people just quit buying records right about the exact same time we left Capitol. And I think that had more to do with anything than anything else, really. But, we've done a really good, and, Courtney he's really switched on to the music business, and he's a very kind of powerful voice when it comes to negotiating and discussing these things. And that movie Dig, Courtney's not always like that. That's not the way he is. Yeah, that movie is an absolute mockery of what Courtney actually is. Yeah, he is a deeply intellectual and artistic individual. And she just had to make him into a character. Sure. I mean, I read that. Yeah, you said it was a. She's. Sorry, go ahead. I read a quote where you said the film could have easily been a feel-good story, and there were, instead they showed a few rare moments to give it a Jerry Springer storyline. Oh yeah, no. She filmed 2,000 hours of footage. Wow. Over the course of 7 years, and narrowed it down to 2 hours of just the worst of each person's personality. I mean, my mom is like a retired fourth grade teacher. My mom is a retired fourth grade teacher. She is the sweetest lady in the world. And if you filmed 2,000 hours of her for 7 years, you could easily make a 2-hour movie of her being a nightmare. People would walk away going, what a crazy lady. What a terrible lady. I mean, you could do this with anyone. You could do this. I mean, she'd probably be the most difficult subject to do this to. But you could do it. Especially if you're a Yale film grad she has to make, you have to make your like hero, your anti-hero, your protagonist, your this and that, and she just designed a movie and then found the footage that fit in with her story.
Yeah.
And she did it. She made Anton look like a total psychopath, just kicks people in the head all the time, and that does nothing but shoot dope and scream at people. There's hardly any mention of the fact that these people are like, these are like two of the hardest working bands, ever. And that they both write really great songs, and that they both respect each other deeply. I mean, in a few minutes, I'm going to be hanging out with Matt Hollywood. He lives in Atlanta, right? He's coming down. If Anton and those other guys were here, they'd all come down, and we'd hang out, just like we have for 20 years. But this movie does not portray that at all. And it doesn't tell you, it's a disrespectful film. And she just recently came out with a film about Russell Brand, and he saw the first edit and refused to do any promotion for it. And when I read that, I was like, oh, makes perfect sense. And then I saw it on the airplane actually flying over here to America, and it was just a straight-up hit piece, just making him look like a misogynistic psychopath. And it's the same exact thing she did with us in Dig.
Yeah.
With all of us. I love every single person in that movie, and she just made sure to show all the clips of people being an asshole or just talking about the music business. That was Courtney's character. That's Courtney's character. And that's Dandy's character. We're just trying to get rich and famous. And then Anton's character is just any footage she could find of him sort of wasted writing a song on a napkin on a curb. They'll do that. So now you have the real artist here, and then this guy. And some of those festivals where it shows us playing and people are going mental, and it makes it look like all of Courtney's hard work is really paid off. All of his selling out is really paying off. Well, Jonestown's playing that same festival. You don't see that in the movie. It's just, the movie is a joke, but you know what? It's a great movie, but it's just not true.
Sure. Was it good promo for you? Do you think it helped your career, aside from all that stuff you talked about?
Shockingly, I think it did. If I didn't know anything about these guys, I would go away from it saying, I really love Jonestown, but these guys in the Dandies are a bunch of pricks. It's just the way that it's designed, we're kind of the evil, we're the ones sitting in a volcano trying to, tapping our fingers against our fingers, twiddling our thumbs and in a very Dr. Evil sort of way, trying to figure out a way to dominate the earth. And then you have these sweet, beautiful, real artists who are struggling, driving around in their van and it's just a made up story. But yeah,
fair enough.
I mean, I think a lot of people saw right through that because I get a lot of people did see right through that actually, thankfully, because I get tons of people every night, basically. Somebody, or at least one or two people will come up and say, I saw that movie Dig and I really loved your songs and I got all your records and that's when I became a fan. Like, well, thank God you didn't fall into the trap of like believing it was a real documentary, because otherwise you would just hate these people. You wouldn't want to hear their music at all. And that goes for Jonestown too. Really, if you want to listen to this guy preaching at you that kicks people in the head all the time, that like treats his band that way, those guys wouldn't. Those are all very intelligent and lovely people. They would not stick around and get in a van with a guy that's constantly punching them and belittling them. These are arguments over the course of 7 years that are going to happen no matter what. And it's like, and it's just a sad and dark portrayal of these people, and it's untruthful. But I think most people can kind of see through it. Anton, those guys wouldn't stick around if it wasn't for the fact that he's such a great songwriter and actually truly deep in his heart, not even that deep. He truly is just a really, really great guy, really intelligent and interesting guy who writes great music and is able and willing to put on show after show after show that are really, really, really good. You wouldn't know that. You would think that every show they just start kicking each other if you watch the movie, but that's not the case. They actually put on great shows night after night.
Well, we'll move on from Dig, because you're right. It is a great film, and it is a train wreck, and it is entertaining. But the thing I'd say to you is that one thing that does shine through is definitely, both yours and Jonestown's good songs. So that's from my perspective. But I want to turn this back around, Brent, and go back to being on the major label, the perception from many people who are students of the music industry, we're all taught that the major labels, yes, they're going to help your career. They're going to, like you were talking about how it was a really cruisy ride, but they take the majority of the money. Now, I imagine a lot of money was made from the Dandies. Is that true? They take everything because I imagine everything's recoupable. You see a little bit of that in the film as well with the expensive music video and all that stuff. So did you make much money while you're on Capitol?
No.
Yeah. So the myth's true.
Yeah, we didn't really make much money. Those videos were very expensive, and you get talked into it. It's encouraging and it's beneficial for the label. What do they care? You're gonna pay them back anyways. Well, you pay back half of it, I guess. Mm-hmm. So you make a $200,000 video, and then you got to work your ass off to pay back $100,000. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you've sold 1 million records, and they know their 100 G's is going to come back real quick. So it's not a risk for them at all. And they get their 100 G's, and then you really have to hit the ground running to pay back your 100, because they just take all the cabbage from the album sales, any money that comes in other than the live concert. So, sure. And that benefits them too, because you're out just raging doing these concerts, and that's another giant promotional thing, which is fun. Of course, you want to do that. I'm not complaining at all, man. We had a great time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. We had a great time, but on their end, they're stoked. They're not going to lose on this deal, and I imagine they have fancy lawyers that could write off any losses that they do incur. But for us, we're definitely taking great risks. Plus, we're the ones on the cover of these magazines and all that, and they're totally private with their families and hiding away. And so, I mean, it really is hey, I got an idea. How about you give me $100,000 to take this job, and then as soon as you make over $100,000, you can start collecting the money yourself. But while you're working to pay off that $100,000, we're going to take all that money back until you pay us back. Do you want to do this job? And you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do it. But like I said, I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of just saying how it sort of seems in my head, and maybe what I just said is slightly off the mark. I don't know. I'm sure there'd be some guy at Capitol going, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about, but that's the way it always seemed to me, and I think I might be right.
So Brent, if you woke up in the morning and there was some crazy shift in time and space, and you were back there just before you signed to Capitol, would you do it again, or do you think you'd take the indie route, especially in today's music market? What do you think you'd do?
In today's music market, I would want to talk to a lawyer, talk to a lot of people who know what's going on, and
you didn't talk to a lawyer back then?
Did we back then? Yeah, like a whole bunch. Okay. Yeah, we had the same lawyer that represented Madonna, Puff Daddy, Michael Stipe. So we had some serious heavyweights.
So do you think you'd do it again?
That's yeah. I mean, look back in that period, looking back at that time, 100%, because those were some of the best years of my life, and meeting Robert Smith from The Cure and 3D from Massive Attack, and hanging out with the Stones, playing concerts with them, and all over Europe, and touring with David Bowie, and doing our own tours with full giant monstrous backline and catering, and just living that whole rock star thing. Those were some of the best years I've ever had, and I wouldn't change anything. I don't even, like I've said, this music industry has not, especially as a drummer, when you're not the songwriter, this trip has not made me wealthy. It's kept me alive, and I've always been able to go out to a nice dinner and be able to, you know, maybe buy dinner for other people and maybe fly friends to come and see me, you know, like people who couldn't afford to do that kind of thing. I just fly them out to hang out, stuff like that. So definitely that, but I've always had a nice place to live and a decent car, and that's great. It hasn't made me rich in a sense, like, you know, monetarily speaking, but the wealth of experience is not even remotely quantifiable. And even Bill Gates could not purchase the amazing experiences I've had. Bill Gates could not just fork out a bunch of money and drum in a band opening for the Stones in front of 110,000 people. And he couldn't just fork out a bunch of money and say, I want to experience a rock tour through Europe, or I want to you know, be invited to you know, to see fill in the blank band play a gig and have them invite you backstage and hang out and meet their heroes. Guaranteed, he would have a couple heroes, and his partner Paul Allen, I know he's way into music and he has heroes, and having them meet you eye to eye as a peer, you know, opening for Tom Petty and meeting Tom Petty, you know, smoking a doobie with Tom Petty. These are things that you cannot buy, and that if you could, nobody on earth would really hardly even be able to afford. And these are things that naturally came to me and my bandmates solely because we put our nose to the grindstone, made sure the record sounded good, and got to work in the business sense, like we talked about before, and also just hitting the ground running, getting on the road, playing these shows, and having a great time, and sacrificing time with your family and time at home with your friends in order to do this. And, you know, and there's tough weeks and there's tough months, but overall, the wealth of experience would be, if you could quantify it in a monetary sense, it would be in the trillions. Like, I can't even tell you how many amazing experiences I've had, just random crazy stuff, you know, happening in who knows where in the world, you know, where you're just flying around in the back of some stranger's car heading to whatever their favorite bar is, and then the bar closes and me and Court and, you know, a couple of guys in our crew, which we're all great friends with, you know, suddenly we're back in that car heading up to their apartment, some really cool apartment, hanging out on the fire escape overlooking some town in who knows where in the world, and you just can't believe the experience that you get. And so I've never been one to worry about money, and I remember Dave Sardi, who produced 13 Tales from Urban Bohemia, who mixed it. He said that, I remember he told me one day, I said, man, he said, do you want to go out and get some food? And he said, I know this great place up here. And I said, what's it like? Is it like fancy? Is it expensive? Is it fancy? And he goes, dude, the day you start worrying about money is the day you don't have any.
Interesting.
And it's something to sort of think about. But ever since then, I just always tried my hardest to just believe in my mind fully that everything is going to be fine, and it has been. And I just, I just implore anyone to do the same, because even if that might not work, whatever, fine. Well, I'll tell you what doesn't work is constantly fretting and worrying and wasting your day-to-day by choosing to not experience something based on something as stupid as cabbage. Just go along and drink a water if you have to, but always say yes.
Hey, Brent, it sounds like you've got an amazing book in you, mate, with all those experiences. I'd like to read that one day, hopefully. And The takeaway
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
a good
getting.
idea.
Yeah, well, you should, man. I would love to read your book. It sounds like it would be amazing. But I want to go back just before the takeaway for anyone listening to this is that what you're basically saying is if you get the opportunity to get signed by a major label, even though they're probably going to take all the money and you'll all be, all your stuff will be recoupable and you won't make many bucks, you're advising go for it because of the well-oiled, what did you call it? The well-oiled or well-lubricated machine that's going to help you raise your profile and make you into a bigger act. Is that correct?
I think well, at least for us, I only have one experience with Parlophone, EMI, Capital, and I guess at the end of the day, it's all EMI. And they did a great job for us. I think everybody in my band would agree that they did a good job of letting the people who need this music know about it. They let people know that there's this music out there that you might need. And I think that our fans to this day appreciate EMI letting them know about this band. And, I don't really know any other way to put it, really. And sure, but look, it's a giant machine and they definitely they're a big business and they extract as much as they can out of you. But at the same time, I have to admit that they put our music into the homes of people who needed it, who may have never known about it before, especially since in the late 90s, there wasn't Shazam and there was not YouTube, and they somehow let millions of people in on this secret of the Dandy Warhols, and I truly believe those people are better for it today. So that's all I got to say about EMI. I think that was great. And, sure, we argued a bit with them, but I don't know how it is today. I don't think that we would do that again today. But at the time, in the late 90s, it was definitely a good thing that happened for us. Awesome,
Brent. Awesome. I know you've given me a lot of time, and I just want to ask you a couple more questions if you don't mind. You touched on this before about, often being the drummers sometimes get ripped off. I just wanted to know about, with the Dandy Warhols, the songwriting splits. How does it all sort of work? Does Courtney come with a song and say, here it is, it's all finished, and you just jump on the kit, or do you co-write together, or is there a typical scenario how you share your music publishing?
Yeah, we have co-written together. We did Catcher in the Rye on the new album is a 50-50 me and Cord. I came in with the chords and the melody, but I didn't really have any lyrics. I had a couple lines which made it into the song. And then he and I, mainly Courtney, was kind of, because he's going to be ultimately in the Dandies, he's the one singing. So I always want him to have the final say on the words, because it would be weird if he's singing something that he doesn't believe in. That would be totally morally wrong. So, I just had this song, and it was just a melody and chords and a drum beat. And I said, dude, you got any words for this? And he wrote out the words. And so, that's 50-50 me and Court. And that's the way the publishing works for that. And there's a handful of songs that just came about as complete jams where it's just 25, 25, 25, 25 amongst the four of us. And there's a couple Dandy songs that's just me. And, we just go by the basic rules of publishing that have been set up for, I think, 7 or 8 decades, And generally speaking, there isn't any trouble with it. It's typically pretty obvious how it's going to work. And, that's the way it works. But I'd say 98% of these tunes are just straight up Court. It's his voice.
Sure.
And they're mostly his tunes.
Okay. So it sounds like you.
Yeah, and then we. And then there's other income besides just songwriting money that comes in, and so we all just split that, and we've done fine with that over the years. So
fantastic. And I suppose it would be remiss of me not to talk about the new record, Distortland, and the upcoming Australian tour. I guess it's for you like coming home now.
It will exactly be coming home. Yeah, because I live in Melbourne, so I'll get there, and then a few days later, the rest of the gang will show up.
Yeah.
And we'll do the Aussie tour, and then just a few days after that, we head to the States because we have some shows in December and stuff. So
cool.
Yeah, we always love playing Australia, though.
Are you enjoying living in Australia? It must be quite a change from Portland.
It's not a huge change. It's all, everybody's speaking English still. And and it's really similar in the sense that the art scene is kind of similar. There's a bit of weirdness, a bit of character in Melbourne, a lot of great restaurants. So it's really just like a gigantic version of, it's a flat, gigantic version of Portland with way more traffic.
Yep. Okay. Have you been to an AFL game yet?
Oh hell yeah. Oh, a whole bunch. Yeah. Like we go to the Saints. We go watch the Saints all the time. My father-in-law is involved in that team, the Saints. Yeah, St. Kilda.
So the Saints might have a big year next year, I reckon.
Oh God, yeah, it's going to be epic. And then, then I go for the storm. I go for the Storm. We go to Storm games. I love watching those brutes just try to kill each other. It's so fun.
Well, they unfortunately missed out in this year's grand final, but they've done all right in the past, and I reckon they'll be back next year.
That was a close one, though. That was a close one.
Hey, Brent, you sound like a really cool guy, man. I say that honestly. You meet a lot of people that have had a lot of success, and they sort of are really bit hold back, but you've just been so open and so incredibly honest and sharing with all of your information. So I really want to thank you. Hope I get to meet you sometime soon. And if anyone was listening to this and wanted to get in touch with you, is there a good way to reach out and say good day, or flick a demo tape, or what's the best way to get in touch with Brent DeBoer?
Sure, yeah, no. If you go to the contact page on the Dandy Warhols website, you hit contact, and then there's all this stuff about management and all that, and then it just says contact the band, and then right there is the only email I use. So
awesome. And has Immigrant Union got any...
About as easy as it gets.
Sure, cool. Thanks for that. And has Immigrant Union got any plans to do an Aussie tour in the near future?
Yeah, probably April-ish, because I think April or May or so is when our third album is going to come out. So probably hit the road right about then. And yeah, we do have a show. We have a show like in January in Tasmania, I think. So there's a couple shows I think in Tasmania in January. But yeah, did I get that wrong? Yeah, I think it's January. Is it January, February? Yeah, it must be January, February. Or no, maybe it's March actually. Late March. It's late March, I think, Tasmania. Late March.
I'm sure it'll be all over the street press. Hey, listen, Brent. Before I go,
just check the Union Facebook or the website or whatever. But yeah,
totally. Before I go, I just wanted to squeeze one last bit of advice. If you could give to someone listening to this who's in an independent rock band that's trying to make it, they want to be successful, they want to do it as a career. What's your parting piece of guidance for those people?
Do good work.
Do good work. That's a very basic but very good motto. I like it.
That's all you got to do, man. Because if you're going to play a gig, or if you're going to make a record that anyone cares about, or if you're going to, no matter what, just make sure that it is really good. That if you love it, most likely said person is not going to be so strange that other people won't be able to relate. So just make sure that it sounds exactly the way you want it, and that you rehearse a lot, and you remember how the chords go, and that you play the best concerts you can possibly play. And that's kind of your only hope, because that's you, is your live concert and then your music. So make those two things as very, very special and unique and beautiful as you possibly can, and let the rest of it just fall in line.
Brent DeBoer, drummer for 19 years for the Dandy Warhols. Fatty, thanks so much for your time, mate. It's been a real blast talking to you, and you've provided some awesome and insightful information. I really appreciate it, mate. I hope you have a great tour, and all the best.
All right, man. We'll hopefully see you in a few weeks here, huh?
Yeah, man, I'm up in Brisbane, so I'll definitely take you up on that. I appreciate that.
All right, let's do it. Let me know if you need any help.
Okay, take care, man.
All right, see you, buddy.
G'day, people. How'd you enjoy that? What a cool guy, hey? And if you do have any thoughts or opinions on what Brent and I talked about today, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. You can email me anytime you like at rodney@musicbusinessfacts.com, or you can get me at facebook.com/musicbusinessfacts. I'm also on Twitter at musicbiz, B-I-Z, facts. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to catching up with Brent when the Dandies hit Australia in late October 2016. And once again, I really want to thank you for joining me on the show. If you know someone who might enjoy listening to this podcast, please share it on your socials and let them know about it. And don't forget that I've got a heap of other really informative interviews over at my site at musicbusinessfacts.com. And if you really did want to help me out, I would really also appreciate you searching for Music Business Facts on the iTunes store and leaving me a rating and review. I would be very grateful if you could do that for me at some stage if you're interested. Okay, until the next episode, I'll leave you with a quote from Courtney Taylor Taylor, the lead singer of the Dandy Warhols. He once said, "Success is having two things, a little more free time than you know what to do with, and a little more money than you know what to do with." Sounds to me like a good problem to have. Until next time, guys, this is Rodney Holder signing off from musicbusinessfacts.com. Copy you later.
You've been listening to the Music Business Facts podcast. For more essential music business tips and information, visit musicbusinessfacts.com.